Mr. Ryan Coogler, please report to my office to receive your flowers.
First and foremost, I should say what I believe about this movie. I believe that this movie is about how when you do not deal with your traumas, when you don't deal with your traumas or you don't deal with the things or the issues that you have within yourself, they become demons and those demons manifest. I'm going to spoil the entire movie. So we're discussing. It's a discussion. So if you haven't watched it, you're not ready to discuss. Please go back and finish your assignment and then report back to the class. Thank you very much.
First of all, a cinematic masterpiece. That's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And I am excited to see how Hollywood is going to cope after, because the talent, chef's kiss. This is why we need diversity in media, in directing, and in all aspects of everything. So the movie we are discussing is called Sinners. If you haven't seen it, it's directed by Ryan Coogler, and it stars Michael B. Jordan with a lot of other people. Great cast, amazing movie. And I was so convicted by the messages within the movie, and I just want to break it down. We have 20 points to get through. We're going to make it quick. I talk fast, so let's keep up and let's get started. All right, everything that you see within the movie happened within one day. That is a very important message for me in the movie, and so let's keep that in mind. Everything happened within just one day. This whole premise that he just wanted to go out for one day, he just wanted to hang out with Smoke and Stack for just one day and to play the blues for one day. But sometimes we take it like it's just one day, but we want freedom so bad. What does freedom really look like, and what does that mean? And by doing that, how does that change the rest of your life? How can that one day change the flow of the rest of your life? This whole movie is about the spiritual world, right? It's a very, very thin line between the physical world and the spiritual world. And this movie is really focusing on that, because when you have these kinds of traumas or these kinds of things, you open yourself up to invitation. A key part of this movie was invitation. You see, none of the demons could actually enter the place until they were invited. A demon needs an invitation. They need an allowance. They need a legal grounds to be able to enter or to invade your space. And by your actions, your words, what you listen to, what you do throughout the day, that is what gives demons those legal bounds to be able to enter into your space. Okay? Invitation, number one. I believe that the theme of this movie is Psalm 35. For his anger endureth but a moment. In his favor is life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. I believe that is the entire theme of the entire movie. Because keep in mind, everything that we see in the movie happened within what? One night. Everything happened within one night. Starting from the beginning, Jedediah, the pastor, Sammy's dad, he already knew what was going to happen to Sammy. That's why in the beginning, he honestly gave him the choice of red pill, blue pill. When he said that he wanted to go to the juke joint, he told him that the next morning, Sunday morning, he wants him to help him lead the word. So he even gave him a scripture and he asked him to recite it. And he was able to recite it off his head. So he knows the word. He knows all of those things. But he just told him, he made a point that I want you to come back to do this for me. As for Stack and Smoke, they are literally red pill, blue pill. Their real names are Elias and Elijah. Elias and Elijah are the same person in the Bible. Greek translation, Hebrew translation. So in a way, they are the same person. And figuratively, they are. Physically, in the movie, they're not, obviously. Every single character had a trauma that they were dealing with, except for one. Well, no, every single character had a trauma that they had to deal with. And depending on how they dealt with it is how they literally ended up in the movie. So let's keep going. Undealt with traumas lead to demons. That is the short of the whole thing. If you have traumas that you have not dealt with, it will lead to demons. It will lead to demons having ground, having invitation, having territory, having dominion, having the right to legally and come into you and do whatever they want to do just because you gave them that right, okay? So Hogwood is the person that they bought the juke joint from, Smoke and Stack. He was the main demon. He was where the chain started, okay? He already had it in his mind that they were going to kill Smoke and Stack the next day after they paid them for the place. So, in that case, there was already demonic activity going. You were thinking of killing people, doing harm to people, doing things. There was already demonic activity brewing. That's what even brought the thing into the atmosphere in the first place. Hogwood is in agreement with demons. He is a grandmaster of the KKK. He's in agreement. Him and the demons are friends, okay? So they realized that, oh, why would Hogwood be able to get all these people and just kill them? No, I'm rather going to come. And so that's what they did. His name was Remick. That was the person that fell. He is supposed to be alluded to Lucifer. He is like a fallen angel, fell from the sky. And his whole premise is to gain souls. That was his whole goal of going there. So that's when he told them that, they were going to come and kill you guys anyway. I just came for Sammy. Sammy was anointed, okay? Sammy's gift was anointed, and his gift would have led a lot of souls to Christ. That's why he had a red pill and a blue pill, either the blues or he was going to stick to gospel or do things more aligned within the church. That's why the demons came.
The demons told him to his face, I came for you because you have what I want. When you are anointed, when there is a calling over you or there's something over your head, you will be attacked. There's no way to avoid that. It is part of it. Now, I think I should just break down the characters, right? Stack was red, so he was the red pill, more towards the evil side. Stack's girl was Mary, right? So first, let me talk about Stack's trauma. Stacks and Smoke just had trauma, right? They had a very abusive father. That was one thing. So that was their trauma. So they ran away from that. They went to Chicago. They were soldiers. They've done a lot of things. So they've had a life, right? Stack's trauma is actually Mary. Mary was his girl. Mary she can pass as white because I think she's a quarter black. But after Smoke and Stack's mom passed, Mary's mom raised them. When Mary saw Stack in the train station and she was talking to him and Stack said that nonsense about her mom, okay? He was very disrespectful to her about her mom. Her mom had just passed. And that's Mary's trauma. Mary's trauma is that, number one, she's an outcast because she doesn't necessarily fit in with white people. She doesn't also fit in with black people. She's closer to black people, but she doesn't look like a black person, so it makes it difficult for her. Her other trauma was the loss of her mom. Her mom had just died and she was struggling with that loss. Outside of that, she felt lonely because she grew up with Smoke and Stack as well as Cornbread. None of them came to her mom's funeral, and that really did pain her. So that was her traumas, right? So Stack and Mary are aligned. Moving on to Smoke. Smoke's trauma was that Smoke would have been a family man and lived an upright life. Unfortunately, him and Annie had a baby and their baby died. So that was his trauma, the passing of his baby, because he told her flat out, I still love you, but coming back here hurts. I never got over it, okay? Mary's trauma is the same thing. She also had trauma about her baby. However, Mary was the only person in the movie that dealt with her trauma. She knew how to manage it. It's not like she didn't feel it. She embraced the feeling. However, she knew how to manage it. Also, Mary was also in a spiritual sense. And then I don't want to get to, but who told you guys that our ancestors weren't spiritual? They didn't believe in God. Anyways, moving on. Annie was the one that was spiritually inclined, and she was the one that had the knowledge to be able to inform everybody of what was going on. Okay. Sammy's whatever was that he was anointed. As I said, he was anointed, and the devil was literally coming to tempt him. So that was his test. As for Bo, now we're moving on to Bo and Grace. They are the Asian store owners. Their trauma, or not necessarily their trauma, their downfall, or why they also became part of this, was because their downfall was greed. They didn't need the money. They had two shops. Bo was in the black only shop and Grace was in the whites only shop. They owned two shops right across the street from each other. You guys are not lacking in money. You don't need the money. But sometimes when old friends, when old people that we used to have in our lives come back into our lives and we don't know how to cut them off or not to do certain things with them, what happened? They heard money, they heard all those things, and they said they're going to come. They're going to come to the juke joint. Grace was supposed to do the sign for them. She could have honestly done the sign for them and left. She stayed to bartend. And of course, Bo stayed too. So that was where their issues were. Grace's trauma, or her trauma, was her fear. And her fear was for her daughter. Because after she sent Bo outside, they specifically said, oh, we're going to go back and get your daughter. That was the whole reason why she ended up inviting them to come inside. Because she knew that she would rather kill Bo than to let him go for their daughter. So her fear is what got her. Because I believe that if she would have never invited them in that moment and they would have endured for the night, the joy would have came in the morning. They would have been gone in the morning, but she could not endure because of her fear. Delta Slim's trauma was what he's seen in his life. He's older, so if we're talking 1930, he's seen things in 1900 and 1890, slavery, people being lynched and all those kinds of things. He even spoke about it. You can tell that when he was speaking about it. Okay, before I get to that part, when they got to the train station, Delta Slim's trauma, or his issue, is he uses alcohol to cope with the traumas that he's faced. He uses liquor for it. Because if you've noticed, whenever Smoke or Stack went to somebody, they always offered or talked about money. And every single person accepted the money, except for Annie. When Smoke told her that, oh, the money that you're taking is not real money, she told him that I don't need the money that you have. Annie was okay because she was content with who she was and what she had. She was content. She knew how to be okay. And so because of that, it didn't open her up it didn't create certain invitations for things to come into her because she was already sound in what she was and who she was. Very important. So back to Delta Slim. Delta Slim has trauma that he's dealing with, obviously, through the loss that we found that out later. But when we first met him, we just thought him to be a drunkard that plays the harmonica in the train station. However, his vice is what was able to get Smoke and Stack, because outside of Annie, he was the only person that said he didn't care about the money. This was his problem. He wanted to give up. He had integrity, he had longevity, he had a stable environment, because he told him that you're going to come for 1 weekend. I've been playing at this place for 10 good years. Everything is good. I like it. I don't want to mess up one day for the past 10 years because of one day. The only reason why Stack was able to get him was because he had beer. He had his vice. He had liquor. So that was his trauma or his downfall. That liquor is what also equated to his downfall later on. So that was his vice, his issue. Now we're going to go to Pearline. Pearline is who Sam liked. Sammy Boy, Preacher Boy, he liked Pearline, the girl that he saw that was married. When Pearline saw Sammy in the train station, she said, yeah, I've seen you around. They didn't know each other. And she specifically made a point to say, but I'm married, right? When it was that, he invited her to come to the juke joint. She should have never went. Once she wore that dress and she put her things on to go to that place, she invited them to come to her, because you are tainted with the Jezebel spirit. You are dealing with temptation. You know that because she was unhappily married, her trauma was that she was unhappily married. Instead of her to deal with her marriage with her husband, she saw Sammy and she decided to have an out with him instead of focusing on what she was supposed to focus on. That was her issue. That was her downfall. Cornbread. Cornbread's downfall was his wife. Oh, honestly, Cornbread's downfall was his wife, because when Stack came, he came very disrespectful. He came very disrespectful to Cornbread. He was talking crazy because he felt like he had money. When Cornbread heard how he kept on talking, he told him, I'm about to beat you. When his wife said, no, wait, let's find out how much money he wants to give you first. And that, she sold him out. Because of that, Cornbread went. He ended up dying. If not, he would have defended her honor and he never would have went. So his wife, hers was also greed, because she sold out her husband and her honor for money. Moving on, Remick. Remick is the antagonist of the whole thing. He's like the devil, the main demon. I believe that he is a direct translation to Lucifer. When he first appeared, he appeared as a fallen angel. And if you guys remember, Lucifer is the angel of music, and Sammy is musically and gifted, inclined within music. There's a very thin line between the spiritual world and the physical world, and music is one of those things that allow you to be able to pierce those veils. I believe that Hogwood was the originator of this entire thing, because he was already planning to kill Smoke and Stack without their knowledge. So he was already operating from a demonic place. He had evil, demonic thoughts entering his head with his buddies. So that was what even drew the demons to them in the first place. He was the first person to come into agreement with them to allow all of these things to spread. After everything, Sammy refused to drop the guitar. He refused to drop the guitar. What do you want? Smoke asked him, he's like, why do you still have that? And he said he thought it belonged to whoever famous person it was. And he said, no, it wasn't. It was my dad's. Smoke and Stack's dad was abusive. He had traumas that he didn't deal with. So by Sammy deciding to keep that guitar, it is allowing for generational curses, generational trauma to continue throughout your bloodline. Preacher Boy and Remick, when they were fighting, and he started saying the Lord's Prayer, and Remick started reciting the prayer with him. Yes, he will, because let's not forget that the devil knows scripture too, and that was the entire point of it all, right? He was doing that in that moment to test him. That is a direct relation to Matthew chapter 4, verse 6. That was after Jesus was baptized and he went into the wilderness and he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. After he fasted, the devil appeared in front of him to tempt him. And the devil said to him in Matthew 4, verse 6, he said, and saith unto him, if thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. So what he's saying in the second part of that verse is literally Psalm 91, verse 11 through 12. It is written, those exact words. That's why he said it is written. What he recited was a Bible verse. So let's not forget, the devil also knows scripture. So that's why when they were at that point, they were both reciting the scripture to each other. And at that point, I saw from someone else's video, they said that he knows those words from someone else burning down his father's plantation or his father's land. And so that is his entire trauma too. He never dealt with what happened with his dad, opened him up to traumas for demons to be able to incorporate themselves. And so that is what I believe the message of the entire movie is. And as I said, so at that moment when they were fighting and they were doing the Lord's Prayer, the only thing that he could go and do was grab onto the guitar. Mind you, I believe the guitar has already been anointed and blessed for this exact moment. That is why when he came to hit him with the guitar, even though it stunned him, it did not kill him. It was not the end of it. It was just to help protect him. But that was not the end of the battle. the end of the battle is alluded to Smoke and Stack. Smoke, in a way, sacrificed himself for Sammy Boy. He told Stack that I'm not going to kill you. I'll let you live if you don't kill Sammy. As you saw, Remick was the lead, let's say Remick was the lead demon, right? When they harmed him, it harmed everybody. Demons call other demons to inhabit. So one demon can inhabit you and call 15 men of his demon friends to come and gang up on you. And they're all under authority with that specific demon. So if you tackle that demon, the rest of them have to follow him. When they were able to kill Remick, if Stack would have died, the curse would have ended there. The generational curse and all of the demonic activity within their family would have ended there. However, because Smoke could not take it upon himself to kill his brother, to kill Stack, he instead made an agreement. He went into an agreement with the devil. He gave his life. In a way, I'm not alluding him to Jesus because the child and nobody is Jesus. However, it's alluding to sacrifice, that he made that sacrifice for himself to be able to defeat the devil, because Smoke was the one that came back up to kill Remick after Preacher Boy used the guitar to hit Remick. So Sammy's job after that was just to let go of the guitar. Stack even told him, let go of the guitar. The guitar belonged to their father, so that guitar was full of generational trauma. It was full of issues. He should have left it there. He didn't. He took it back to church, brought it to church. His dad also told him the same thing. Put down the guitar. He refused. He left and he drove off. So now you may think that Sammy went on to live his life and everything just because Stax went into that agreement with Smoke. However, that's not true, because if you listen, at the end of the movie, when Mary and Stack came back in 1992, Sammy stated how he has sleep paralysis every so often, and sleep paralysis is demonic activity. So he thought that he's been living his life this whole time, like, and everything is okay. Meanwhile, the only reason why Stack never came for him was because of his agreement with Smoke. But at the end of the day, the whole moral of the story was you can choose. God is a God of free will. God will give you everything, all the pieces, and you have to make the choice. So he gave Sammy free will, and his free will in that moment, he decided that he was going to go and do the jazz way. So at the end of the day, he either took the church way or the other way. At the end of it, the devil was waiting for him at the door. He told him, I'm just waiting for you to die. So his final resting place is not going to be in heaven. That was the choice. That was the bet that he made. That was the decision that he made, because he refused to let go of that trauma. He refused to let go of those things that he should have left behind. The moral of the story is deal with your traumas. Don't allow your traumas to be invitations to allow demonic activity within your life. Don't allow your traumas to be things that will hinder you in your life. Don't allow your traumas to be things that will try to rewrite or redesign your story. Ask God for guidance. Ask God to remove you of any demonic stronghold. You people should pray when you leave the theater, because I definitely prayed before I left. So please keep in mind, I believe that Psalm 35 is the basis of this whole movie. And if you wait at the very, very end of the movie, Sammy was singing This Little Light of Mine. And that just goes to say the light was always within him. He always had the talent. Everything he needed was within him. He never needed the guitar. But that was the problem. Honorable mention to the dance scene when Sammy started playing. That was one of the most beautiful moments in cinematography that I've ever witnessed. The seamless cohesion of music through the ages, from the beginning of time up into the present day, the ebb and flow of it, the progression of it, the everything of it, the storyline, the cast, the shooting, the message, chef's kiss, 20/10. Watch it in IMAX, and thank you for coming to my TED Talk.